traditions are really important. Our traditions help us to create memories. Our memories help us to grow, and all these different sort of traditions happen. One of the traditions in our house is we've got this little shepherd called Junior. And our little shepherd, he's in search of the Savior. Now, some of you have elves, and you're elfing yourself or something like that. But at our house, we have a shepherd who's in search of the Savior. And our little shepherd boy here, he's been looking for Jesus. And so this picture I took because we woke up one morning and found our shepherd in the egg carton in the fridge. And he was thinking that maybe Jesus was going to be born out of an egg. What do you all think, boys and girls? Born of an egg. Come on, somebody. Born of an egg, right? So he drew faces on the eggs trying to guess which one Jesus was going to come from. And Jacob was a little mortified at the idea that shepherd had drawn on the eggs. But, get cracking. So there's our shepherd. And then here's another picture of our shepherd. This is him reading the story of Jesus' birth in Luke chapter 2 to the sheep. Now, this is fascinating. I had some concerns about the sheep. First of all, why are there sheep in my house? And as always, there's always one black sheep. And so this is, shepherd somehow gathered some sheep. I guess shepherds naturally gather sheep. And he was reading the Luke 2 account here, which was a powerful story. And so he's got the Bible open there, and he's got some sheep. So this is one of our traditions that we've recently started. I wasn't involved in this decision. This came upon me. And so it became. And when I was younger, we had traditions in my house. And when I got married, I discovered some of my traditions were going to change. Oh yeah, no, you're not sure if you should laugh or not because you're like, oh, I didn't know she was like that. But as I got married, our traditions changed, and some traditions changed because I wanted them to, and some traditions changed because I was told they would. And sometimes God speaks in miraculous ways. And sometimes you hear the voice of God and you just know something's going to change. So some of our traditions have changed. One of our traditions is a Christmas morning. Jacob and I, we get up and we go downstairs and we'll sit on the couch and the Christmas tree, and we'll sit on the couch and he'll crawl up on my lap. And before we open the gifts, we tell the Christmas story. Now, I don't use the Bible because I know it. Like I know this Luke 2 story. And I tell it, what we might say, with full animation. And so I talk about how Mary was pregnant, and there was a census called, and she had to return to her home village for the census, and and I tell this story, and then I explain how Mary rode on a donkey. Now, I don't do it now. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree. No, there'll be lots of time for that. I do it this way. So Jacob marries a young girl, and she's pregnant. She's bouncing on a donkey, all the way to Bethlehem. And I go through the whole story, and so they slide into a pile of mud or whatever that is you find in a barnyard, and sure enough, there they find themselves in a stable. Mary gives birth, and apparently baby Jesus, no crying he makes, but he squawks. And I go through all this nonsense with Jacob. Don't judge me. You can tell the story the way you want. And then at the end of it all, Jesus is born. And unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. His name shall be called Emmanuel, Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace, Almighty God, Everlasting Father. And to his throne there shall be no end. And so I tell the story. And we have lots of fun. And that's our tradition. And then we go right to the next best thing after we remember what Christmas is about. Then we go all pagan and open the gifts. But that's our tradition. That's what we do. It's fun. And Jacob will forever remember not the gifts that we opened or the Bible that I read, but he'll remember how Daddy and him sat on the couch and we told the Bible story together. Come on. I know that the song says no crying he makes, but obviously somebody was looking for rhyming words and not truth. That thing squawked like a baby. I mean, if you woke up to the head of a donkey in your face, you'd scream too. Come on, he's born in a barnyard. Tell me he wasn't squawking. He was pooping like the rest of the kids do. Right? That's how we tell the story. That's what we do. It's our tradition. It's fun. So we got lots of traditions. In fact, we love traditions. And John in our text today, he talks about keeping the light on a little bit. And that's my message today. It's called Keep the Light On. And today I want to talk about how John tells the story, because John, the gospel writer John, tells the story of Jesus in such a unique way, different than Matthew, Mark, or Luke. All four gospels tell the story of Christ's birth, but John does it differently. John paints this picture for us of Jesus in a different way. Right from the outset, John talks about Jesus as light. Matthew doesn't do it that way. Mark and Luke don't do it that way as they tell the story of Christ's birth. But John opens up the text with this imagery of light and life. In fact, John does it so differently. And we all paint pictures differently. In fact, here's another tradition that we have. Check this one out here. This is the manger. Look at this manger scene right here. Some of you might paint the picture of Christ's birth like this. This is actually in our lower auditorium. Marilyn brought this for us. She called me and said, "Can I set up a manger scene? I have one." And I said, "Yes." And then a few days ago, I said, "I'm going to take a picture of it for Sunday morning. I want to use it for church." And she said, no, Pastor, you can't. I told her I'd take a picture or bring it up. I wasn't sure which one. And she said, no, I got to come back in. And I said, what, Marilyn? What? She goes, I was going to sleep last night. She says, and I remembered the donkey is on the wrong side of the manger. And I said, I don't think anybody will know. No, Pastor, just like Marilyn can say it. No, don't take a picture until I change it. And with fervency in her voice and bounce in her step, boom, she made it back here. We got that donkey all set up the way that donkey ought to be, as if we know where the donkey was. Don't tell Marilyn. And so here we are. And this is part of the tradition. I promised her I wouldn't tell anybody that she had the donkey on the wrong side of the manger. Shh, our secret. And so here it is. Right? And this is the picture we paint, but John paints a different picture. John paints a picture of light and life. And I don't know what just happened to me, but my volume changed dramatically. And so John paints this picture of light and life. And he starts off by saying this. This is what he says in our first text in Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. Actually, the gospel writer Matthew says it here. He says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." So let your light shine. Let your light shine. But then John goes on to say, after the gospel writer Matthew, in John chapter 1, verses 1 to 5, he says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was God in the beginning. Through him all things," how many things? Say it. All things. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing has been made. He goes on to say this. "In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind." In the beginning was the Word was God, and was with God. And in him was life, and that life was light, and that life was the light of all mankind. John goes on to say, that light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not. John said it. He said it at that time. He says, and the darkness has not. Oh, don't be confused. The darkness has not overcome it. I am so glad that in 2020, darkness had not overcome it, darkness is not overcoming it, and darkness will not overcome the light of Jesus Christ. He is a light in a dark world that shines bright, and nothing can put him out. Come on, somebody. It may be COVID, but my light of Jesus shines bright. Come on, somebody. So he goes on to say that light wins. John would paint this picture that light wins. In fact, light is so powerful that light has no power to be overcome by darkness. John says that it was actually from the beginning. John chapter 12, verse 46 says, "I have come into the world as a light, so that no one who believes in me should stay in darkness." John would say here, he would say, listen, there is a light that when you come to know the Savior, when you come to know Jesus, there is a light that you no longer have to live in the darkness of your world anymore, but you can live in the light of who Christ in eternity is. That John doesn't say darkness goes away. John doesn't say darkness disappears. John doesn't say that darkness is no more. What he says is you don't have to live in darkness because there is a light that has come. There is still darkness, but you don't have to live there. Can I bring you some good news this morning, church? There is light, and you don't have to live in darkness anymore. Oh, but I feel like it's dark. You don't have to live there. Oh, but I feel like it's a dark season. You don't have to live there. Oh, well, I feel like we've been going through a dark time. You don't have to live there. My home is not on this earth. I am just passing on through. I am heading to a brighter day, somebody. I said I'm heading to a brighter day, somebody. John would say, listen, I have come into the world as light so that no one, Jesus would tell us, no one who believes in me should stay in darkness. There is an option out. You don't have to stay there. 1 John verses 2:8 says this, yet I am writing you a new command. Yet, in light of all this stuff, yet I'm writing you a new command. Its truth is seen in him and in you, because the darkness is passing and the true light is already shining. As we approach Christmas, we are reminded that even though we feel like we're in darkness, there is a true light that is shining, and that light is the light and life of Jesus. And I think one of the best parts about Christmas is embracing that light. Scripture says in the beginning, God created the day and the night, but it wasn't until 2 days later that he created light. So he created the day and the night, but it wasn't until 2 days later that he created the light. And you say, how is that? Well, that is because he was light. He didn't need a secondary source. He was the light of the world. Light doesn't need a source of light. Light is light. That light and life was in Jesus, and he was the light of the world right from the beginning. And then it goes on to say, as you read through, that light cannot be put out and darkness cannot overcome it. And then you get all the way to eternity, where it says that in heaven, that in eternity, there is no light, nor is there darkness. Why is there no light, nor is there darkness? Because we are surrounding the light of the world. He is light. We don't need another source. There is no need for guidance. He is the guider who is in front of us. Come on, somebody. And we fix our eyes on him. So Christmas is lots of fun as we think about light and as John paints the picture. And this year's been a big year for us. Because truly, there's some things that have changed in our home. And I just want to show you a picture of our house. Isn't that pretty? Please clap. I know. A lot of you are thinking, what are we clapping for? I'm not even sure. We're just clapping. Yay. I'm a good churchgoer. I just do what I'm told. Yay, Jesus. You're clapping because on the front of the Tripp household, for the first time in 17 years, there are Christmas lights. That's it, eh? That's it. That's all you're giving me. Really? For 17 years, there has not been Christmas lights, because I don't do Christmas lights. And if you're going to call me Scrooge, that's Pastor Scrooge to you. And so this year, for the first time in a long time, we put Christmas lights up. My wife is thrilled, just so you know. Yeah. And so it was 17 years ago I put lights up on our first house, and it was beautiful. And then I thought, we don't need that. And so we haven't done it. So this year we put up lights. And they look really good, don't they? Yeah, please take pictures. This will be the only year. Here, let me get just... Okay? And so these are the lights on our house, and we love lights. And there's something fun about light. But there's also something really handy about light, and I'm getting to that age. Boy, it got quiet in here. Getting to that age where I'm really starting to love the flashlight on my phone. Did you know? Your phone has a flashlight. And I'm discovering this year and last year a little bit that the prints on things, the printers aren't as good anymore. They don't print the crisp letters like they used to. Have you noticed that? Yeah, it's a real problem. And I used to tease my mother about, and I still do, but I used to tease my mother about this because she'd do this. You know, and if you do that, I'm not teasing you right now. But recently I have discovered I started doing this. Right? Then I discovered my flashlight. Here, you put that baby on something, those letters just bounce right off the page. There I am. But the problem is you can't be using your flashlight when younger people are around, because they kind of mock you. Having trouble seeing? No. No, I'm not having trouble seeing. I can see just fine. The other day I was calling for my fridge. My fridge died. Guy on the phone says, just read me the serial number. I said, oh yeah? I can do that. I said, where is that, sir? It's just on the inside of the fridge there. It's on a silver tag just inside the door. You just open it up and it's right there on the side of the door. I don't know if he knows this, but the side of the door is only this thick. That means the tag's this thick. That means the letters are this thick. And here I am doing this. R 6 or B? No, that's a 3. That's a 3. And here I am. So I pull my flashlight out. He's on the phone. I'm on my flashlight. N? He says, no, that should be a number. Right. No, sorry, sir. I got ahead of myself. 4? So I give him the number, and the guy calls back like an hour later. There was one of them that I think should be a letter, and you gave me a number. Do you want to read it to me again? 7? Like, no, sir, I think that was a B. Right. B? Like, I don't know. I have no idea what letter or number it is. They should make those tags bigger. Children can't afford to buy fridges, and older people that can afford them need glasses that are better and print that's bigger. Let's make it age appropriate. Anyway, my flashlight. I tell you that story with a sense of passion, can you tell? And so this has been my journey, my flashlight. But what's really amazing is what light does for us. Do y'all bring a flashlight? Yeah, grab your flashlight. It's okay, it's in church. Get your phone out. Turn your flashlight on. Yeah. Yeah, bring your flashlight. Go ahead. We're going to kill the house lights in the room. No, just the house, not me. And so we're just going to kill the house lights for a second, yeah. And I just want you to get your flashlight out. If you're at home, you can make the room dark. Get your flashlight. And what I want you to do is, I just want you to, don't look right at your flashlight because it'll blind you, and then you can't see anything. Right? Then we're just going to kill all the lights in the room. Here they go. Poof. And you can just play with your little flashlight there. If kids, shine it in your sibling's face if you want. Do whatever. Your mom won't yell at you right now. You're in church. When you get home, though, watch out. You're getting coal in your stocking. So it's pretty cool, eh? Just hold your light up a little bit. It's kind of fun, you know? Can see you there. Yeah. I wonder if can you follow me? Like, are you good enough? Can you follow me? If you were in charge of lighting, could you follow me? Whoa, some of you just got a little confused there. That was a little scary. But what's really cool is this is a lot of fun because you're all pointing the light at me and I light up and that's good. But everybody just put your light to the ceiling. And what's amazing is when we all point our light the same direction, it changes the atmosphere for everybody in the room. Notice that? Because the light hits the ceiling and reflects back down. So now the light doesn't just serve me, but our light together serves the room. And I can actually see you. And you know what's really cool with it is you can actually get fancy. You can make like shape, doing. Right? Coming to get you. I gotta make sure I don't walk off the edge of the stage. Right? Being a fool is how you get yourself into trouble, right? Like this, right? You can have so much fun with it. Like you can make like, it's coming to get you, kids, right? Like it's so cool. All the things mom and dad told you you can't do in church, we do. Isn't that wild? Yeah. Because light is attractive. Now watch this, guys. Watch this. Do me a favor. If you're in this section over here, would you just shut your lights off, please? Just shut your lights off. Yeah. Shut your lights off. Thanks. That's great. So now you're over here in darkness. But what's really cool is the power of the rest of the room that has light is to shine it in their direction. And you can give light to their atmosphere. And now let's watch this out. Now center section, you can just turn your lights out now. Just turn yours out. Turn yours out over there, please. Yeah, no lights. No, thanks. There we go. Turn them out. Yeah, center section, turn your lights out. We'll give you time to figure out how to do that. It's okay. Nobody's judging. There we go. We got them all. Okay. Now over here, you guys are still looking well lit and wonderful, while the rest of the room is in darkness. But what's really, really cool is we could shine our lights over here. We could see those pretty faces again. Right? Yeah. And what's really amazing is that on this flashlight, there's the power to change the atmosphere that you were. Light changes the atmosphere. It does. It changes the atmosphere. It allows us to see where we're going. It allows us to brighten up a space. Now, if we all turn on your phone, your lights one more time. Just everybody turn back on again. Turn back on again. Great. Now, the last thing I need you to do now is just with your light on, can somebody turn on the darkness? Go ahead. Somebody just turn on darkness. Yeah, I know you got your flashlights on. That's great. Leave those on. But can somebody turn on the dark? Oh, interesting. Jesus came into this world to bring light to darkness. And 2,000 plus years later, darkness has not overcome it. Because darkness has no authority to overcome light. Light only has the power to push back darkness. When Jesus said, I'll build my church and the gates of hell won't prevail against it, it's because he knew gates don't move. But he built a church that would be on the move. When Jesus said, I am the light of the world, he understood he had enough power in him to change the atmosphere of the world. You can turn your lights out. If I can have the house lights back on. Thank you. As we get older, our eyes take a while to adjust to new light, don't they? Where'd y'all go? Right? Like that's how it goes. Light is powerful. And what's really fun about light is Christmas is really all about light. When we think about Christmas, we really do think all about light. I showed you the lights on my house. Now, what I didn't tell you about this picture that's interesting is because we have one timer for 2 strands of lights, at night, this side here goes out, and if the man of the house don't go out and unplug this side, the neighbors have light for the whole night. Come on, somebody. So next year, the neighbors are going to say, we'd appreciate you not putting lights on your house. Because this here is enough to light up their bedroom. Come on, somebody. I figure if we're going to put lights on the house, let's make sure they are bright. Nassau has a landing pad on the front yard of our house. Come on, somebody. And so this is what we do. Light's powerful. Light is fun. Light is exciting. In fact, we love lights so much that we actually have lights in our house. We have a Christmas tree. Check this out. Isn't that pretty? I said, ain't that pretty? Just so you know, I positioned that pillow. That was not there naturally. When I took the picture, the way our house really looks, I thought, I can't show that on the stage. My wife will kill me. So I went and I fussed the pillow just that. Look at this. I even got this pillow over here in this corner. Don't you miss that pillow, people. Okay. I got the angle right. And this is our Christmas tree. And some of you know how much fun it is to put lights on the Christmas tree, don't you? And do you know what's more fun than putting lights on the Christmas tree is when it's time to plug those lights in the evening because everybody wants to enjoy them. Have you ever been there? There's that stupid. Got it. Yes, there's the tree. Praise the Lord. Woo! And then it's time to shut it off. You're already too tired. You should have gone to bed an hour ago and you got to unplug that silly tree. So you're trying to step through the gifts. You know how it is. And you're in there and you're doing this and you're like, boom, it's unplugged now. Can somebody help get me up? Right? It was worse when we used real trees. For those of you who still get a real tree, it was worse for you. Because you know what it was like. For those of you who had black, brown, gray, white, whatever color hair. Jesus loves them all. You'd go under that tree, you'd pull that plug out, and your hair would come out with a green tinsel. Because all those little prickles on the real tree. How many people know what I'm talking about? If you don't have hair, you can't put your hand up. But for those who have hair, like, the green would get right in there, poking you and jabbing you. And you'd think to yourself, Merry Christmas, why do we have to have a stupid tree? Right? Come on. But we got this really cool thing at our house this year. Amazon. And for everything else, there's MasterCard. We got this really cool thing. We got a timer. Right there. You can't even see it. But behind that tree, right in there, boom, there's a timer. 4:30 at the Trip House. Boom! Tree comes on. Joy to the world. 11:03 p.m. The night has come. Let all the children sleep. Let the tree go out. And nobody make a peep. And wonders of his love, and wonders of his love. It's a beautiful thing. I don't even have to touch it. I'll be watching television sometimes or sleeping with the TV on. And boom, it just shuts off. I'm like, yes, the power of a timer. And we got this little creature over here. It's in a terrarium. It's a gecko, and he requires, there he is. He requires a lot. That's not natural light. That's all created light. He's got like light bulbs. It's like 97 degrees. I'm jealous. It's 97 degrees in there. He's living the dream. It. And so this is our little gecko. This is Jacob's pet. And her lights come on and off automatically because when we first got her, we didn't have timers. You had to remember to plug those lights in, unplug those lights, switch those lights. She needs heat. She needs light. She needs light without heat. She needs heat without light. She likes it this way. She is fussy. Stop it. And so here it is. And she's got light. She loves light. And when the lights come on, she goes into her hide. When the lights go off, she comes out. Because the light is the sign of life and safety to her. And you know what's fascinating? Is Jesus, for every believer, is the light of the world, who is light and safety for each one of us. And there's something that changes when we add light. Light's powerful. Light changes how we live our lives. And the truth is that Christmas just isn't about light, but it's about the light of the world. And it's not just about an atmospheric change. It's about a personal relationship change that happens when Jesus comes into our lives. And we all love stuff at Christmas. I love opening gifts on Christmas morning. I love sipping on a coffee. I love telling the Christmas story. I love seeing the tree lit and all that fun stuff. And we're going to add a big back wall to here. And when you come Christmas Eve to one of the services, you're going to see this awesome light presentation on the back wall. Our team's gotten that all ready. It's going to look really, really awesome. We all love lights. We all love that experience. But the truth is that in the midst of all of that, there is darkness. There is challenge. And for some of us, COVID has been a really challenging year. Who knew that we'd be in December still talking about COVID? Who knew? Like, seriously. So sick of it. It's been such a downer. It's been so tough. It's been so hard. Depression and anxiety are probably at the highest they've been in decades because of it. People are struggling and suffering, and it's been hard. It seems like it's been a bit of a dark year, doesn't it? In so many respects, it just feels like it's been dark. It feels like so much of the light has been covered by cloud. It feels like it's just been so tough. But when I look back at Jesus' story and illustration, what I discovered was it was tough then too. In fact, even at the point when Christ was born in Bethlehem, Herod in his palace wanted to find the baby, and so he would send shepherds to go because the theologians of the time would tell Herod. They would say, the scholars of the time would tell Herod, they would say, listen, the one who the prophets talked about, he's been born. So Herod would say to them, well, listen, I want to go and worship the newborn king. Herod had no intention of worshiping him. So he would send shepherds to go and find this newborn baby. And there at a stable, they would find the baby Jesus. And they were asked to come back to report to Herod where they found the baby so he could go and worship them. But in fact, they returned a different way because Herod's goal wasn't to worship the baby, but Herod's goal was to make sure the light got put out. Because the light was a threat to darkness. Hello, somebody. I said the light was a threat to darkness. And nobody that lives in darkness wants the threat of light. Hello? And so they would send and they would go, and then the Pharisees, they didn't appreciate him. Jesus would teach and they would criticize. Jesus would do all these things, and they would criticize and attack, and at some points they even wanted him dead. And then the Romans came along, and the Romans said, listen, this is our kingdom. The Roman Empire must exist, and the Roman Empire must live on. And so the Romans would find fault with Jesus. They didn't even have a real reason. They made something up, and they said, hey, listen, we'll fix that boy. We'll crucify him. And so they took him and they put him on a cross and they crucified him, having had no fault with Jesus. They crucified him as a prisoner, as one who should be ashamed of himself. They crucified him in the day, not in the night. They crucified him in the day, not in the night. And then they put him in a tomb, thinking, we've actually snuffed the light out. The light's done. We've actually extinguished the light. But friends, I want to tell you that a dark, cold tomb couldn't hold the light of the world. 3 days later, that boy rose up with light and power, and what was in darkness was exposed to light. Mary and Martha would come back 3 days later to discover the stone had been rolled away because darkness could not hold light down. Light had to rise again. Jesus wasn't the only one to rise again. In fact, he was prophesied to rise again by the Father, who said, darkness will have no power to overcome light. His daddy knew he would rise again. Hello? So what do we do in our dark world when it feels like the storm clouds are thick? When it feels like it's not going well? What do we do when it feels like the clouds are heavy? What do we do when it feels like our life is on the line? What do we do when we feel like the light of Jesus is on a timer, and it seems like in 2020 that light got snuffed out? It feels like the clouds are heavy. What do we do? How do we live when we look up and instead of seeing the glory of all God has done, all we can see is the clouds of our life that are heavy and overwhelming and tiring? What do we do when all we can do is feel like we're fearful of tomorrow? How do we live when it seems like instead of the brightness of the light, we see the darkness of the day? Can I just remind you, church, that Jesus' light isn't on a timer today? Let me just say that again. The light of Jesus isn't on a timer today. There is nothing that's going to click Jesus' light out. Oh, I know it feels dark. And I know as you come to Christmas, we kind of walk through all of these different things. We feel this weight and we feel this pressure, but really the truth is that Jesus isn't on a timer. COVID can't stop the light of the world. Come on, somebody. I said sickness can't stop the light of the world. The government can't stop the light of the world. I was just telling Jacob the other day, we were in the car, and he says, oh, do we have to go to church? And I said, Jacob, we don't have to go to church, buddy. We get to go to church, and don't you forget it. And he says, what do you mean we get to go to church? I said, Jacob, there are parts of the world where they can't go to church. I said, never take for granted our privilege to attend church together and worship with other people who believe in the same God we do. I said, don't you forget that. I said, there's parts of the world where they would love to go to church and worship with somebody else. I said, but their life would be on the line. He said, what do you mean? I said, the authorities of their country would kill them for worshiping God publicly. And he's like, whoa. I said, yeah, buddy, we don't have to go to church. We get to go to church. Come on, somebody. I said, we get to go to church. We don't have to. I get to. I get the privilege of worshiping with the body of Christ. Come on, somebody. I don't have to go. It's not like it's law that I got to go to church to be a Christian. I get to go to church, and I get to live my faith with the friends and family that I have right here in front of me. Come on, somebody. The government can't stop the light of the world. Nothing can turn out the light of Christ. It burns bright and gives light to everyone around it. You know, there are seasons in our lives when we feel like clouds are dark. I remember 17 years ago, my dad died. Man, it was a dark day. The dark cloud weighed in heavy in my world. Man, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that 10 years ago, we were praying that God would give us I guess it's more like 15 now. I'm losing track. But for the first 10 years of our marriage, we were praying God would give us a kid. And we couldn't have a kid. It wasn't happening. And oh, man, the clouds seemed dark. And then 10 years later, we found out Sarah was pregnant. And man, the clouds seemed to lift a little bit. Come on, somebody. Well, we got the best little boy named Jacob the Trip House has ever had, somebody. Yeah. And then it was about a year and a half ago that it was a tough season in our lives as Sarah and I, we'd gone through a miscarriage, and we were like, oh man, this is crummy. And do you know what I noticed about black, dark clouds in our lives? Do you know what I noticed about that? Here's what I noticed about that. I noticed when there's one black cloud, there's always two. And man, just at the same time as that was going on, we, as a leadership team at the church, we were dealing with some really tough situations, and nobody here knew what Sarah and I were going through at that time. And so it was like, man, not only is there one storm cloud, we got a whole pile of storm clouds. Listen to me. Oh, don't feel bad for me, because here's what I know. Here's what I know, and here's what I want you to know. No matter how dark your storm clouds are, even though you can't see the light of the world, the light shines bright above the clouds. Come on, somebody. I want to tell you, nothing puts out the light of Jesus. And so sometimes what happens is I look up and I see storm clouds and I go, God, why have you turned the light off? God, why does it seem so dark? God, why has it been so hard? God, I don't understand why it has to be this way. God is not on a timer like this Christmas tree. God is not on a timer like that it goes out at a certain time. God's light doesn't shut off at 11 p.m. when I've done something wrong. God's light doesn't shut off when I've made a mistake. God's light doesn't shut off when it doesn't seem like I'm doing the right thing, or I miss a week at church, or I don't do whatever, I do whatever, and I shouldn't have done whatever. It doesn't work that way. There's grace for the light of Jesus. Come on, somebody. I said there's grace for the light of Jesus, and in my darkest moment, he shines the brightest. So we went through all that stuff, and it was hard, and it was difficult, and I know as we come into 2020, we leaned in heavy as a church to what God was going to do. We were excited in 2019 about 2020. Man, we had plans. It was awesome. And we laid out a whole bunch of stuff that we were pretty stoked about. We were pretty pumped about. January came, and February came, and then March came, and man, our world got stupid. I remember standing in the foyer with our kids' ministry. Some kids were being picked up on Thursday night, and a dad was picking up his son or daughter, I can't remember. He said to me, he goes, so just to be clear, so next week for March break, there is no kids? And then we're back after that? Yeah, that's the plan. We might be off one more week after March break just because they're concerned about a virus thing. We're not sure. So it might be a couple of weeks. But then we're back. Okay. Just watch our social media. We think it'll just be a week or two. Or a month or two. Or 2 or 3 months. Or 3 or 4 months. Or 7 or 8 or 9 or might be a year. I don't really know. Just feels like the clouds are dark. Just feels like everything I kind of planned for the year kind of went down the pipe. Just kind of feels like it got really dark. Just feels like, oh man, I don't know how it's going to go. Maybe that's how you feel. Maybe that's how you got. Maybe that's kind of where you're at. Maybe you're like, man, this year's been tough. And as I come to the end of my year, I just feel like it's really, really challenging. Then I come back to that reminder that darkness can't overcome light. And so then I began to think about what light has done, and I began to think about how our church has responded in a dark time to light, and I began to think about how much power light has, and I began to think about how you and I went through this together, and how as a church we went through this. I began to think about how we kept the light on when it seemed to be getting really dark. Friends, I began to think about how in March, when we discovered they were going to shut us down for 14 weeks, how our team pivoted so quickly. Our council pivoted, our lead team pivoted, Pastor Dominic pivoted, our staff pivoted, and it was like we just decided one day, we said, you know what, darkness is not going to overcome light. It may feel dark in our world today, but Motion Church is going to be a church that blesses the community regardless of our situation. And so we're going to work harder, do more, figure it out. We're going to pivot. We're going to change. We're going to relocate. We're going to make sure that Jesus still has light in our community. Come on, somebody. And while churches around us, near and far, often we're saying, well, we're going to have to shut down. There's nothing we can do. I said, doing nothing is not an option at Motion Church. We will do something when nobody's doing nothing. We will do something to make sure that Jesus' name is still high and lifted up in our community. And if other churches around us want to join us, that's great. And if they don't, that's okay. But we're going to make sure we keep the lights on, friends. We're going to turn on the light. We're going to make sure we keep the lights on. We're going to make sure that somebody can see the light. Hello? We're going to keep the lights on. So I watched you pivot. Man, I watched during COVID as our service team stepped up and started serving 2 services every Sunday. I watched as Pastor Dominic for like 14 weeks didn't sleep on Saturday nights as he edited and put together a video so that on Sunday morning you could have a church experience in your home, on your TV, on your laptop, on your iPad. And every Saturday night I'd be going to bed at like 11:30. I'd say, well, Don, you're going to bed soon? He'd be like, well, just a couple more hours maybe. And in the morning I'd wake up and I'd go down to the basement to get ready for our live service experience from our homes. And I'd say, hey, Pastor, good morning. He'd be like, morning. I'm like, did you sleep at all? Well, I remember going to sleep when I heard the birds sing, and then I woke up about an hour later, but I'm going to sleep right after this service. And for 14 weeks, that boy worked his butt off to make sure we had church at home. Come on, somebody. That's how we pivot. Then I watched as you folks came together and just said, hey, we're going to be the church. You called each other. We got people calling people. We got on top of that stuff, and I watched you pivot. I watched you work hard. I watched our A-team serve every Sunday for the last how many months, I don't know anymore. 2 services every Sunday. I watched our cleaning team do extra cleaning to make sure the building's safe. I watched our audio and our production and our broadcast people make sure that the cameras work so that you at home can watch this service, or when you miss the service, you can watch at home or whatever. I watched them serve 2 services every Sunday because we could just do one and have half the people because there's not enough room to put everybody in the same room at the same time. But no, we said we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to come to church. Hello? I watched people serve. I watched our worship team work hard to practice and prepare and serve. I watched people go over and over and over again to make sure it happens. And I could name so many other people, but I watched us pivot. Then smack dab in the black cloud, I told you clouds come in more than one. Well, we had COVID, and then we got to find out we needed a new roof because everybody wants to spend money on a roof during COVID. And so I got up here and said, friends, you know what, I'm so thankful that you're a generous church because we're going to figure this out, but we need a roof and it's going to cost us like 10 grand. And that's not in the budget and it's November. Man, you guys were generous. During COVID, you said, hey, count me in, I'm going to keep the light on. Count me in, I'm keeping the light on. And then we got the roof looked after, and we got the money for that. And then it was like, oh yeah, now we got to do something for our community because the roof doesn't do squat for our community. Most of you will never see the roof. Nice, isn't it? Then we said, hey, we got to make sure kids have gifts for Christmas. And so this past week we delivered 100 gifts plus to the local public school to make sure every kid wakes up on Christmas morning with gifts under the tree. Come on, somebody. You should clap for that. We delivered over 100 gifts to the local public school to make sure every kid gets a gift on Christmas morning. There will be some children who will wake up on Christmas morning. They will have one gift, and as they open that gift, it will say, Merry Christmas from Motion Church, because we keep the light on. Hello? I said we keep the light on. So you did that, and then we had like 12 little tags for Christmas gifts left over that weren't purchased, and so last night somebody calls me at home and they said, hey, I just attend online. Like I've never been in your building, but I've been attending with you online for like the last 8 months. You've become our church, and I saw you had some tags that I just wondered, did all those get cared for? No, not all of them did. Oh well, I just want to know how many are left. So I think there's like 12. I don't really know. I said, I'll have to look in the morning if the display's even still there. I said, I don't even know. I really don't know. And they said, well, I was given some money, and so I want to buy 7 tags. So I'm just going to transfer 7 tags worth of money to the church tomorrow during service so that we can make sure that we keep the light on. Hello? I'm not talking about the hydro in the building. I mean the light to the community. We just want to make sure Jesus is seen in our community. And so kids on Christmas morning are going to crack open a gift, and they're going to see Merry Christmas from Motion Church. There's no verse. There's no verse in there. There's no you need to come to our church in there. There is just simply that this is the light, and here it is. Because Jesus brings good gifts. Come on, somebody. I said Jesus brings good gifts. And then you showed up for that. You did awesome. You did amazing. You were phenomenal. You did all that. But that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. And then we'll deliver 3 food baskets, 2 to Iroquois, 1 to Morrisburg, food basket with gifts for 3 families so that on Christmas Day they will have a full turkey dinner, every fixing you could want at Christmas dinner, and gifts under the tree so all their kids get gifts. Why? Because we want to keep the light on. Hello? So 2 families in Iroquois and 1 in Morrisburg are getting a big old food basket with lots of Christmas gifts piled on top. We'll put them in like laundry baskets. We're going to deliver those. So these people have never come to our church. They called us 3 years ago, and we've delivered to them every year since. Because we're going to keep the light on. Hello? I said we're going to keep the light on. We're going to make sure that the light of Christ shines bright in our community. Oh, and then you all showed up, and you all just kept coming to things and showing up to things and making things happen. And so some of you showed up, and you said, listen, I'm going to donate my time because we got projects to do. And so you showed up, and you've made things happen. We're going to be ready for Christmas Eve because so many of you showed up and just said, hey, we're going to make sure we keep the light on. Man, Christmas Eve, people are going to come. Listen to me, church. Christmas Eve, people are going to come. And because you continue to show up, and keep the light on, because you continue to make sure that the light and the love of Christ shines in a dark world. Hello, somebody. I said, because you continue to do that, however you do it through your giving, you do it through your time, you do it through your service work, you do it through whatever you do it through calling somebody, encouraging somebody, picking up a turkey so it can go to a family, you do it by buying the cranberries so a family can have food, you do it by purchasing some extra Christmas gifts, you do it by buying gifts off that back wall last couple of weeks, you do it by making sure that the house of God is cared for, you do it by being generous, you do it over and over and over again. And I want to tell you, as your pastor, there is no greater joy that I have than in boasting about who God is to our community, because at this church we keep the light on. Can I just say it again? At this church we keep the light on. And it's not that we should boast about ourselves, but that we might boast in who Jesus is. Oh, that they would see the generosity of our God. Hello? They would see the generosity of our God. So people are going to come Christmas Eve, and this room will be all set. We'll have Christmas trees on the platform, and this is all going to be transformed this afternoon, and by Christmas Eve it'll actually work. I've got 4 days to figure that out. If you need me, I'll be here, probably in this room. Right? Christmas Eve, people are going to come. We got 2 services. I think the 23rd is almost full now. 24th is like halfway or better. People are going to come Christmas Eve. Listen to me. People are going to come Christmas Eve. We're going to make sure the light's on. Hello? There's going to be people to greet and serve. There's going to be people serving hot apple cider. There's going to be people serving people to their seats because we have to sit according to groups and da-da-da-da and all those things that we're doing. There's going to be people who serve on the platform and sing and lead, and there's going to be people who make the platform transition. There's people who are going to help make that wall look awesome, and there's people who are going to do all that crazy stuff. There's people who's going to do all that stuff. And it's also that when people come on Christmas Eve, they can see the lights on. I don't mean the light in the room. I mean the light of Jesus demonstrated by the work of those who love God and who are called according to his purposes. Come on, somebody. And I promise you, and I promise you, and I promise you, I promise you at the end of those 2 services, like every other year, listen to me, I promise you at the end of those 2 services, because you've been faithful to do all of those things, because you've been faithful to do all of those things, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you at the end of those 2 services, we will make an invitation for people to come and receive the light of Christ. And like no other time, people will raise their hands and say, if that's light, I want light in my life. And people in that moment will step from what appears to be darkness into the light. Because just like where we started today, I don't have to live in darkness. Light has come. Hello? I don't have to live in darkness. Light has come. So as we postpone next week from live services in the room, and we invite you to watch online, and as we go through Christmas Eve services over the next few days, thanks for keeping the light on. Thanks for making sure that we keep Jesus famous. Thanks for making sure that we demonstrate to the world around us that God loves them so much. Thank you for being ridiculously generous. Thank you for giving to things that you never saw. Thank you for buying gifts you never saw delivered. Thanks for being generous to make sure we had a roof that's cared for. Thanks for buying food so we can fill gift baskets. Thanks for giving generously so we can make sure there's gifts under trees for kids who don't have gifts. Hey, thanks for doing that, because that's what it is to keep the light on. That's what it is to light the way for somebody else to come to Jesus. Come on, somebody. That's what it is. Thanks for being missionaries right here at home. Thanks for being global workers to our community right here at home. Thanks for being generous. And I just wonder if, as we head to the end of this service today, I just wonder if there's some people who would say, with me, not without me, but with me. I wonder if there's some people who would say with me, man, Pastor, I want to be part of keeping the light on. I want to be part of making sure that Jesus continues to be famous in our community. And as we end 2020 in just a couple of weeks, and as we lean into 2021, man, I want to make sure that there's a light that shines so bright in our community that there's no way people cannot but miss who Jesus is. And I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to know who Jesus is. And man, I'm fired up about what God's going to do, and I don't want to miss it. I'm going to do my part to keep the light on. I'm going to do my part. You've done it so well in 2020, church. You've done it so well. I'm so humbled by what you've done. I'm so thankful. You've done so well. But maybe you just say, hey, I want to be a part of keeping the light on. Would you make that your prayer as we sing this song together? Here we go.